Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's council meeting in the council chambers for this Monday, the 11th of April 2022. We will start with item 1, the opening prayer and acknowledgement of original custodians of our land. Councillor Betteridge will deliver that for us this evening.
We gather to represent the people of Albury who have entrusted us with the task. May our efforts be blessed with insight, wisdom and common sense. May our personal values give us honesty and courage to serve our community effectively and with respect to all. Acknowledgement to original custodians. We would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people as the traditional custodians of the land that we meet upon today, and pay our respects to the elders past, present and future, for they hold the memories, culture, tradition and hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that contribute to our community.
Thank you. Item 2, recording and webcasting of the meeting. This council meeting is being webcast and recorded. By speaking at the council meeting, you agree to being recorded and webcast. Please ensure that if and when you are speaking at this council meeting that you are respectful to other people and use appropriate language. AlburyCity accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this council meeting. An audio recording will be made for administrative purposes. Item CM3, conflict of interest declarations received and disclosure of political donations. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mayor King. No conflict of interest declarations received, and disclosure of political donations. The Environmental Planning and Assessment Act, Section 10.4 requires a person submitting planning applications or submissions regarding a planning application to disclose any reportable political donation and or gifts to any local councillor or council employee. Reportable political donations include those of above $1,000. There are no development applications in tonight's agenda, so I won't proceed with any further information in that regard. Thank you, Mayor King.
Thank you. CM4, apologies. We do have an apology from Councillor Cameron. Item 5, mayoral minute. Oh, sorry. Oh, we need a mover and a seconder for the apology. Rightly corrected there. Councillor Blacken.
Thank you. Through you to move the recommendation as a motion that council receives, notes and accepts the apology of Councillor Cameron and grant leave of absence for the meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
Happy to put the motion. Those for, those against, the motion is carried. Thank you. On to item 5, the mayoral minute. CM 5.1, marking the 75th anniversary of the proclamation of Albury as a city. Happy to speak to that. I move that council marks the 75th anniversary of the proclamation of Albury as a city and acknowledges the service given to local government by past and present mayors, councillors and Albury City employees. We'd like to use this occasion to thank them for their efforts in helping to imagine Albury as a great regional city in which to live. Along with 8 other large country municipalities, Albury was declared a city in the immediate post-war years. It was gazetted as a city on the 18th of December 1946, and the Governor of New South Wales, Lieutenant General John Northcote, came to Albury and read the proclamation on the 10th of April 1947, 75 years ago yesterday. The declaration of city status acknowledged the growth of the town and anticipated the role it might play as a regional centre in accord with government's plans for decentralisation. The declaration boosted local economic confidence, stimulated further growth in the population and encouraged the development of a rich and varied cultural life. In 1947, the population was 14,412. Albury proved to be one of the fastest growing and most successful of the new regional cities. Today, we are a city of 55,055 people. A regional city includes people from over 100 ancestral backgrounds. The granting of cityhood was more than a local government event. It was a recognition of the ways the people of Albury had worked to build a community with a strong economy and vibrant cultural life. Albury had become a large regional centre and was capable of taking on a regional leadership role. Activities that have been developed and implemented by the Museum and Events team in partnership with Albury and District Historical Society to celebrate the milestone include the exhibition in the Council Administration Foyer. Albury 75, Our Place, Our Story, was on display from February and will continue till the 11th of June. An invitation from AlburyCity to the Governor of New South Wales, Her Excellency, the Honourable Margaret Beasley, to visit Albury around the official 75th anniversary of the proclamation date of April 10. And whilst the Governor was unable to visit Albury in person, a video message has been produced and is available on the AlburyCity website for those who'd like to view that. The Albury and District Historical Society also have a web page with links to videos and further information about Albury's development as a city from 1947 until 2022. Councillors, I invite you for any debate, and if not, happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Item CM6, action plans. Do we have a mover? Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move the following action plans be received and noted. 1, actions complete for noting only. 2, actions awaiting response from external parties. 3, actions in progress, and 4, long-term issues more than 3 months.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor King. Happy to second.
Councillor Thurley, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I just make a brief mention because the Sustainability Advisory Committee met today and wanted to acknowledge the number of 7 community members, several of them new, a great new committee, I think. It'll be a hard-working and very helpful committee to council staff. So that's all I'd like to say.
Councillors, any questions or debate? If not, happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 7, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Councillor Bowen.
The minutes recommend that the minutes of the council meeting held on Monday, the 28th of March, 2022 at 6:17 p.m. be confirmed.
Councillor Edwards.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Councillor Bowen, do you wish to speak?
No, happy to.
Procedural, thank you.
Yes.
Happy to put the motion if there's no further debate. Those for, those against, the motion is carried. Thank you. CM8, reports from community forums. There are none. CM9, notices of motion, notices of rescission. There are none. CM10, presentations and deputations. There are none. CM11, reports or minutes of committees and working parties. There are none. CM12, documents for sealing. There are no documents for sealing. Item CM13, officers' reports for consideration. CM13.1, Lavington JINDERA shared path. Councillor Betteridge.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor King, I'd like to move that Council A accepts Greater Hume Council's invitation to reconvene a working party for the JINDERA to Albury recreational path, and B, nominate elected representatives to sit on this working party.
Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. Happy to second that motion.
Councillor Betteridge, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you. I would. The concept of a Albury to JINDERA or JINDERA to Albury path has been put forward over the last 10 to 12 years that I'm aware of. I think this is an opportunity for us to work with and co-fund an appraisal of the options, whether they are feasible or not, and to finally have a decision on whether we should proceed or not proceed. I think it's fair value for our money that we're going to invest, and I'd strongly support it. Thank you.
Open up for debate. Councillor Glacken has a question. Is that right?
Yes, through you to the most relevant member of staff. I would like to confirm that there is not going to be any expenditure related to this. It indicates in the report that the previous council dealt with a motion that was looking for $25,000 to fund investigation. This report mentions that or refers to that previous report to the previous council. Can I confirm that there will be no expenditure should we pass this motion this evening?
Mr. CEO.
Thank you for the question through you, Mayor King. No, not as a result of this resolution, Councillor Glacken.
Another question, Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor King, and through you to the most relevant member of staff. Just wondering that the difficulties that were identified that were associated with the construction of the track or trail or path, do they still exist? Or has circumstances changed?
Mr. CEO.
Thanks for the question through you, Mayor King. The pre-feasibility work that was done, all that information is available. Those feasibility or future development issues still exist. But if council is to endorse the reconvening of the working party, that would be one of the areas the working party needs to work through again. Revisit those issues, potentially look at alternative routes and the like as part of that discussion.
Councillor Edwards, a follow-up?
So I do have some concerns around the environmental impacts of the path, and I guess I'm just wondering, has there been any additional options identified to overcome those?
Mr. CEO.
Other than those identified in the pre-feasibility work, none at this stage. But again, the working group would need to look at those issues and come back to the two councils with potentially a way forward, whether it's further feasibility work and where that might be funded from.
I just have a quick question, if I may, Mr. CEO, in terms of working out where the funding might come from. Do you know if there've been any contact from Active Transport for New South Wales, where there's been any discussion of any preliminary effort as to whether perhaps there might be any appetite to potentially fund a feasibility study or anything of that nature?
There's certainly greater interest in Active Transport across New South Wales, in particular regional New South Wales. So one of the opportunities for collaboration is to partner with Transport for New South Wales to look at the feasibility options. Should the working party come back to the two councils with that as a further option.
Yes, hesitantly I speak against this because in essence we're not committing any funds to the program, and I still may vote in support of this evening. The reasons I am speaking against it is because of my concern with the overall cost. It will cost millions to achieve this, and other reasons are we'll pay millions of dollars to have this done. And I'm very conscious of the fact that most people who want to do long distance riding, and a lot of them do ride out to Greater Hume on a regular basis, they don't want to use a path, and we cannot make them use the path. The on and off-road options both have difficulties. So the on-road options are trying to find enough space to be able to put the bike lane in. The road is in reasonable condition at the moment, but it's only just hanging on. To refurbish that road would cost many millions of dollars. And if we were looking at the option of refurbishing the road, widening it and adding a bike lane, then I would be in support of that. But trying to add a bike lane to that existing road is not, I believe, feasible. and could not be supported economically. Financially, it just doesn't stack up. Off-road, there are, as Councillor Edwards has raised, issues with, there are environmental issues as well. And it would still be a significant cost. It would still cost millions to be able to put this bike path in. So I didn't support this last time it came to council. I, however, am considering the option of supporting it this time only because we will not, as has been confirmed by the staff this evening, we will not be expending any of council's funds towards the investigative work. When you read the report, it indicates that on a number of occasions already investigation has been undertaken, not by a consultant, but by professional staff from the council. And they, in their opinion, there were these issues. So should we support trying to find funding, an alternative source of funding to be able to undertake the investigative work for something that we know will cost millions of dollars, or should we not support that? So I'm looking forward to hearing some further argument from the other councillors as to which way I should vote this evening. But at the moment, I'm thinking it doesn't cost us anything, so happy for us to investigate that without further cost to council, but I could not support it if it actually had a cost attached to it to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. Speaker 4, Councillor Bowen. Or you accidentally elbowed.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine. A couple of questions in the meantime as well. We might, Councillor Callaghan, question? No? Councillor Edwards, you have come up.
Yes, I do
Some
have-
errant elbows tonight.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor King. I'm acknowledging that there will be no formal expenditure as noted by Councillor Glacken. But my question is through you to the relevant member of staff. Will there be additional staff resources put towards this project from the, what I imagine is already under-resourced environment team?
Mr. CEO.
Well, not additional resources. The team that's looked at it last time around are the same team.
Thank you. Speaker 4, Councillor Thurley.
Yes, I speak for the motion because, as Councillor Bettridge has identified and as the report identifies, this is simply looking at the feasibility. We did a little bit of a look at it before, but not in sufficient detail. Yes, if it's ever going to go ahead, it will cost millions, and it won't be AlburyCity and Greater Hume funding it. It'll be grant funding and perhaps some contribution from both councils, but it's a project of such size that it would need grant funding. I'm also mindful of Councillor Edwards has made a great point. It doesn't matter whether it's off-road or widening the road, there are environmental impacts with both of those options because there's some tree clearing, there's some environmental land involved. But what we're doing right now is investigating the feasibility, and that's all we're doing. We'd be remiss if we don't go and do it properly and then make a case that, no, this doesn't stack up and therefore it's out. Greater Hume have asked us to be involved, and I think we should. So I support the motion as it's written tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Another speaker 4, Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor King. I've got a little bit of a differing view and a rhetorical question no one needs to answer it, but how do you think the rail trail track from Wodonga to Corryong happened and all through the wine country and everything else? You've got to have a vision for these things. I concur with Councillor Thurley that we were invited by Hume Shire to participate in this working party. I think it's a great idea. I'm optimistic about it. It's a pretty bad road to ride on at the moment. So if you are a cyclist and you want to go to JINDERA, you're mixing it with the cars going up a hill. It's fairly tough riding. And I think it's a great idea for this first step. And it's not imposing any obligations on us, but it's a look with an open mind. And I think we owe it to Hume and ourselves to have a really good hard look at it. So I'll be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Not Speaker 4, Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I also speak for the motion for the same reason. I drive in on that road every day, and it is dangerous not only for bikes but also for cars. If you are an actual driver on it, so to have an opportunity to link not only Lavington with JINDERA, something of that nature, and also for it to have a destination to go to, like the Pioneer Museum or something of that nature, through to there would also, I think, bring further opportunities together for not only bike riders, but also I think it's also more than just a riding track. I think it's more a walking path as well, or a jogging path or something of that nature. So hopefully something of that nature can happen. But once again, we're looking at the opportunity of a feasibility study for this to see whether we can make this happen. So I'd be speaking for the motion too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. If there are no further questions or debate, Councillor Betteridge, do you wish to sum up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The opportunity to work with Greater Hume on this project to unravel and see whether it's feasible to move forward. Yes, it will come at a cost. People will put effort into it. That is a cost. Will it be a debilitating cost to any of the organisations? No, it won't be. We can look at it. We can come up with a concept of where can we possibly receive funding from. Is it feasible? That's what we need to do. Councillor Baker raises, the High Country Rail Trail. Through Wodonga last year, 93,000 people went on it. 93,000 people enjoyed outdoor amenity. They improved a healthier lifestyle. They engaged with other people, with the environment. I think this is an option, and it's a good option to move forward. And if it's feasible, then we can answer some of the other questions that have been raised tonight. With that, I'd commend my fellow councillors to support the motion before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Betteridge. In that case, we'll put the motion. Those for, those against, the motion is carried. It does have a part B. If someone might potentially nominate one of the councillors to sit on this working party, Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to nominate Councillor Baker to represent AlburyCity working with Greater Hume Council.
Councillor Glacken.
Happy to second Councillor Baker.
Councillor Baker, do you accept the nomination?
I do, thank you, Mayor King.
Terrific. Those for, those against, the motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Oh. As an addition to that motion we just passed, were there any other councillors that wished to nominate alongside Councillor Baker? Any other?
I just have
There's a question. Councillor Bowen.
Yeah, I had a question just whether there was other councillors nominated. Are you only looking for one councillor through to the relevant member of staff, or is it open for other opportunities?
Mr. CEO.
It's really a matter for the council, but historically we've had two representatives on the working party, two elected representatives, and then one or more staff members that were with expertise in that area.
Sorry, Councillor Thurley.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Bowen to be a member of that working group.
Do we have a seconder?
I didn't push my button, but I'm happy to second that, Mayor King.
We should ask you at this point, Councillor Bowen, if you would be interested in accepting the nomination prior to voting on it.
Very happy to accept that nomination. Thank you through you, Mayor King, and thank you for the nomination.
Thank you.
And second.
Right. Those for, Councillors Baker and Bowen being represented. Those against, the motion is carried. Thank you. Item CM 13.2, additional special variation to rates. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council A submits an additional special variation permit application to IPART of 0.9% for the 2022-23 financial year, in line with Albury City's exhibited long-term financial plan. That would generate additional income of $423,000 to support the financial sustainability of Albury City services and infrastructure. And B, in submitting this application, confirms, having regard to all the circumstances, that on balance, the impact on ratepayers and the community in 2022-23 and future years is reasonable, being an additional increase of 0.9%.
Thank you. Councillor Gluckin.
Happy to second that. Thank you.
Councillor Thurley, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, and I first should place on record that I've been in the past an opponent of special variation of rates. But in this case, IPART gave a totally unrealistic rate peg of 0.9% with an additional allowance of, I think, 0.2, which would allow us to raise our rates by 1.1%. That is not anywhere near what inflation is today. And we have made our budgets and our long-term plan based on something totally different to that. And that's why IPART does allow that extra option, that if you had done certain planning and it's out there in the public, then we'll allow you to raise your rates by this additional amount. It's not like a special variation of rates in the past where we did it, for example, for major projects like Mama. This is simply sustainability of the council. You cannot continue to be sustainable if your rate rise is far less than inflation. And that's what IPART was delivering to us. Nowhere near what's sustainable, and the city would be going backwards if we didn't move like this. So I commend this rate increase.
Speaker 4, Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you. Yes, I concur with Councillor Thurley's representation of why we're putting this motion forward tonight and why he and I are both supporting it. There are, in addition to the factors raised by Councillor Thurley, the community consultation for our budget has been ongoing for the last 10 years with our community. It has been made well known to our community that rate rises would be a part of what council would be intending. The fact that IPART gave us less of a rate rise is most unfortunate. In essence, we are really, even with this special variation of rate, we are actually increasing our rates less than we had originally promulgated to our community through our onward programming of rate increases. It's important to note that over a period of time, that $423,000 becomes a number of millions of dollars. And without that funding, our community will lose many of the services which we enjoy as a community and which our community demands of us. We're a forward thinking, forward living community. We've got fabulous services and infrastructure, and without that rate increase, we cannot maintain the services and facilities that we have had to over the last 2 and a bit years during COVID, been working to ensure that we could continue to maintain them. Council, like all other businesses, has had a significant number of negative impacts through the COVID period, and the community has been very supportive of us, and council has as well been supportive of the community. And I believe that this rate increase is imperative for us to undertake. It is less than 1%. The overall impact is $425,000 across all areas of rate within our community, and will largely go unnoticed by our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gluckin. There are no more questions or debate at this stage. Councillor Thurley. Oh, no, question. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you. More a comment, really. I believe that the cost rises are more than 2.5% at this stage. So us proposing our total increase of 2%, which is 1.1% plus the 0.9%, is still well under the cost of actually what living is increasing to at this stage. So we are still well underneath what we probably need, but obviously to have that extra funding is going to do support and be able to enable us to continue what we've been able to deliver so far.
Mr CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the indulgence. Just to confirm, councillors, the proposed recommendation from officers is to make application for the additional rate variation, which will then enable IPART to start their process of consultation across our community and in other communities where this has been activated, where the application has been activated. The councillors, through the draft operational plan for the coming year, will include the fact that council has applied to IPART for that increase of an additional 0.9%. So our community can have input and feedback on that prior to IPART making their final decision, and then the draft operational plan coming back to council for its final decision following a period of community consultation and any feedback. Just to make clear that we're starting a process as opposed to endorsing any rate increase. What we're suggesting you do, recommending you do, is to lodge an application to start that process. Thank you, Mayor King.
Thank you for the clarification. Councillor Thurley, do you wish to close debate? Happy to put the motion as it stands. Those for? Those against? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item CM 13.3, delegations of authority, council to Mayor and CEO. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that the council endorses the delegations of authority instrument provided at attachment 1 of this report.
Councillor Gluckin.
Happy to second that. Thank you.
Councillor Callaghan, do you wish to speak to the motion at all?
No, thank you, Mayor King.
Councillors, any question or debate? If not wishing to close debate at all, happy to put the motion. In that case, those for, those against, the motion is carried. Thank you. CM 14, officers' reports for noting. CM 14.1, AlburyCity 2022 Community Satisfaction Survey results. Someone like to move that, councillors? Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to move that council receives and notes the results of the 2022 AlburyCity Community Satisfaction Survey.
Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
Councillor Bowen, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Not at this stage, other than saying that it seems to be a pretty good result at this stage.
Thank you. Speaker for, Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to speak on behalf or to speak for this motion and indeed this report. The report indicates that the satisfaction rate has dipped slightly, but I note that it is ever so slightly, and that, as the report indicates, it is still well above what the regional average would be for a local government area. And during what has been a clearly difficult period, that is fabulous news, because to have a slight dip is really good. There have been significant upheaval within our community, a number of issues, not directly related to Albury City Council, but things that Albury City Council has been trying to assist our community with. And so to have such a fabulous report really on the whole is really positive. And I would like to congratulate the General Manager and his staff for the ongoing work that they have undertaken with our community to ensure that as little as possible impact from COVID and the difficult situation has actually been felt by our community, and where it has been felt, that as much as possible has been eased. It's interesting to note that the community satisfaction survey is really appraising the last few years, and so it's significant, or that's a significant period when the COVID situation has been a part of our community, and so I think we need to note that particularly, and congratulate the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gluckin. Speaker for, Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to talk to the highest rated insatisfaction areas of Albury based on the Community Satisfaction Survey, and joining the council and watching these projects unfold after the last few years. It's great to see them take action. So the Albury Skate Park, Botanical Gardens, Albury Airport, Yindemara Sculpture Walk and the Community Wood Fired Oven are great assets that we often interact with and use within our community. And it was lovely to see that the community also see them as really valuable. So lovely to join the council and see that one of those marvellous things that are happening. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. No more speakers for, against or questions. Councillor Bowen, do you wish to close debate?
Yes, thank you. Just quickly, just to reiterate exactly what Councillor Glacken had mentioned as well too, and also Councillor Callaghan, just to let you know that, you know, our rate at 3.52 points or percentage of is well above the regional average of 3.35. So with those challenging figures, it's still great to see a pretty positive result. So otherwise, yeah, pretty pleasing result.
Thank you. In that case, happy to put the motion, councillors. Those for, those against, the motion is carried. Item CM15, delegates' reports for noting. There are none. CM16, notice of urgent business. None that I'm aware of. There are none. CM17, confidential matters. There are no confidential matters. In this case, councillors, I declare the meeting closed at 6:36 p.m. Thank you.